All right, so today we're going to look at the British monarchy through two totally different lenses. On one hand, you've got this high-stakes international diplomacy, and on the other, some high-drama public relations. Let's get into it.
It all really boils down to this one core idea from our source material. The royal family is kind of like a unique, really powerful currency on the world stage. But what does that actually mean in practice? So when we talk about soft power, we're talking about the art of getting what you want through attraction and influence, not by force. And for the British monarchy, our source argues that this is their whole reason for being, using their massive global profile for the nation's benefit. Okay, so now we're going to see how this soft power, this royal currency, is being put to the test right now in a really high-stakes situation where they're being called on to save a super important relationship. So here's the deal. There's this huge economic agreement between the US and the UK, and it's in trouble. And that's putting that famous special relationship under a whole lot of strain.
Let's just let that number sink in for a second. 31 billion pounds. We're not talking about a minor tiff here. This is a massive potential hit to the UK economy.
See, this was supposed to be the big prize from a previous state visit, a giant investment in British technology. But now, it's been put on hold. So the big question is, why? What's the holdup?
Well, it really comes down to a few key sticking points. Our source tells us that the US is getting pretty frustrated with the UK's new rules on online safety, a new tax on digital services, and some ongoing restrictions on food imports.
So, how do you smooth things over? How do you get things back on track? Well, you deploy your most valuable diplomatic asset. According to the source, Operation Royal Diplomacy is officially a go, with visits being planned for both the King and the Prince of Wales.
And listen, this isn't just any old trip. This thing carries some serious historical weight. It would actually be the first state visit by a reigning British monarch since Queen Elizabeth II came over to see George W. Bush way back in 2007.
Okay, so while this massive diplomatic mission is being cooked up in London, a very, very different story is playing out over in California. And this really brings us to a tale of two royal houses.
And this slide, wow, it just perfectly lays out the contrast, doesn't it? On one side, you have the firm, the working royals, laser-focused on global diplomacy and billions of pounds. And on the other, you have the Sussexes, reportedly just consumed by the challenges of their own personal brand and, well, a lot of internal instability.
So let's dive a little deeper into the specific issues facing Harry and Meghan, starting with what our source calls a revolving door inside their PR team.
The numbers here are pretty telling. According to the source, the couple has gone through a staggering 11 publicists in just 5 years. In any business, that is a huge red flag. So, what's going on? Well, the source gives us a pretty blunt assessment from an insider who basically says there's a fundamental disconnect between Meghan and her professional advisors.
And all this alleged instability, it's apparently had some real-world consequences. We're talking about a poor reception for new projects like Meghan's cooking show, being forced to rebrand their charity, and all those renewed rumors about how their team is treated.
And this brings us all the way back to the King's incredibly important diplomatic trip. The source claims the palace is really worried about any kind of meeting with Harry because they're afraid it would totally hijack the whole story and turn a serious state visit into a soap opera.
And the reason for all that caution is, well, it's pretty simple. The relationship is just broken. This quote makes it crystal clear that the level of trust you'd need for a quiet, drama-free meeting, it just isn't there right now.
So when you put these two stories right next to each other, the huge high-stakes mission of the senior royals and the ongoing personal drama of the Sussexes, it leads you to a really fundamental question that our source material brings up.
To put it simply, if the monarchy's main job is to use its soft power for the good of the country, and the senior royals are out there doing exactly that, then what role is actually left for Harry and Meghan?
Our source suggests that even in America, the place where the couple wanted to build this whole new brand, there's a growing feeling of fatigue with all the drama. A feeling that leads us right to our final thought.
And that's it. That's the provocative question the source leaves us with. In a world of high-stakes diplomacy, what is the ultimate point of a platform that seems to be built on personal branding?